A black man was beaten by cops in Jacksonville, Florida back in February because he had his headlights turned off during the middle of the day. And why is this so important now? Because the footage has gone viral, and holy cow, is there a stink. My name is Scott Schneider, and this is Fed Up in Minnesota. This is William MCNEIL Jr.
When he pulled me over, he walked
And
up.
he's just minding his own business, one day driving his car down a Jacksonville freeway. Just doesn't have his headlights on. It happens to be cloudy out. And guess who flags him down but the Jacksonville Sheriff's Department? And that's where all the crap starts.
Open my door because my window don't work, right? Okay. And then I said, so what I did wrong? Yeah. He said, well, for one, your headlights are off under this weather. I'm like, okay. There's multiple people headlights off, first of all. And then there's no rain.
It doesn't matter. You're still required to have headlights on.
Can you pull that law up?
Huh?
Can you pull that law up?
Yeah, when you step out of the car, I will.
Can you call your supervisor?
Huh?
Can you call your supervisor?
All right, go for it.
Exit the vehicle now. Exit the vehicle. Show me your hands.
Here.
33 at 15 an hour.
I'm here. What is your reason, sir?
Step out.
What is your reason?
Step out now. All right.
No, don't.
Get on the ground.
Stop fighting.
Put your hands behind your back.
Put your hands behind your back. Hands behind your back. What's wrong with you?
I was putting my hands behind my back.
Ain't no talking now, man. Ain't no talking.
Fucking stupid shit, bro. I was doing it, bro. What's going on, man?
You're under arrest. That's what's going on.
No, bro.
Yes, bro.
You
Yes.
have a lawful reason,
Big
bro.
knife center in here, too.
You gonna throw me one like that, bro?
Yeah, I'm gonna take it off of you, bro.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to have a regular conversation with y'all, bro.
That's not how it works.
Too late. It ain't no too late.
When they asked you to step out of the vehicle, you should have done that shit.
Sir, your partner didn't even ask.
Marijuana in his right pocket.
Yes, it is.
So why close the door if you see him pull up?
Because, man, what you mean? He talking about arresting me and stuff, bro. I didn't do nothing.
It's called resisting, idiot.
I didn't do nothing wrong, sir. Can you back me up to the car so I can clean up? Shut up. You bugging my shit, bro.
So, the officers come and they tear him out of the vehicle, and you can see them beating the crap out of him, all because they claim he has non-working headlights. And you hear, while they're beating him, telling him that he has no business questioning anybody's authority, that he should have stepped out of the car, that he should have, that it's too late now, that he fucked up, etc., etc. You see how these officers use their authority to beat this guy. And all because he's sitting in the driver's seat questioning why it is they pulled him over for nothing. So, and of course, during the whole time, they're making him look like he's an idiot. He's the moron. He's the moron because they're trying to take him, a black man, and accuse him of nothing, and then rip him out of the car, punch him in the face. The guy who punched him in the face, by the way, his name is Donald Bowman, and he's the one who's in the most trouble here. But as far as I'm concerned, all 5 officers should have their asses kicked. But we'll see. We'll see exactly what's unfolding here. All the fun and frivolity in Jacksonville here, due to a simple black man innocently driving down the road with his headlights.
Today, attorneys for the Jacksonville man at the center of a viral traffic stop made demands for accountability after a second press conference was held, this time in Chicago.
Your lawyers are calling for full transparency from the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, claiming the incident amounted to police brutality. News4JAX reporter Lisa Hatcher is joining us live with the video highlighted during today's news conference and JSO's response about these new revelations. Alicia.
Tarek, Joy, so they were asking for full accountability, and this is the second time in less than a week they're asking, they're calling for this. They say what happened to him was unconstitutional and racially motivated.
To be held at gunpoint for a civil infraction. That's an infraction where you just only pay a fine, $15 at most, to be held at gunpoint.
William McNeil Jr. was pulled over in Jacksonville on February 19th for not having his headlights on. When he asked to speak with a supervisor, attorneys say officers pulled guns on him, dragged him out of the car, and beat him.
When I saw the video, I was in California at the time. I saw it and I said to myself, this reminds me very clearly of what happened to Rodney King. It was a traffic accident, a minor traffic accident that led to someone being severely beaten. And when you watch what happened, he's pulled out of the car, and then you see officers pounding on him. And you see that, and you said, what the hell is that? What did he do to justify that?
McNeil says the trauma from that day still lingers.
I'm still afraid of police, still frightened at night. I don't sleep still as much as I used to.
Attorneys say McNeil was diagnosed with a brain injury from this incident before seeing the judge for the first time.
How could he enter into a plea when he has a closed head injury, suffer from concussion, and can't even remember his name?
And he's in jail for not having a headlight.
Headlight, spent 2 days in jail. So Attorney Robinson and myself, we're going to petition the courts not only to pursue justice on the civil grounds, not just pursuing justice on a criminal grounds and try to get the officer arrested, but pursuing justice to secure his freedom.
Following the announcement, I reached out to the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office to ask about the attorney's demands. They responded saying, in part, JSO made the video available during a news conference on our social media accounts and through our public transparency portal. The video the attorneys released today has been publicly accessible since July 21st, as evidenced by the JSO badge and captions. Sheriff T.K. Waters has launched an internal affairs investigation into the officer's actions. Officer D. Bowers remains relieved of law enforcement duties pending the completion of the investigation.
So you saw Harry Daniels there, that was his attorney. And you also saw Benjamin Crump there in Chicago, the superstar black criminal defense attorney. In a moment, you also see another major attorney who has been involved in the history of black police brutality. But this gathering in Chicago where McNeil was being interviewed in the media was part of a conference in which black attorneys attend every year. The Florida man seen in a violent arrest video, this is according to Eyewitness News 7 and ABC in Jacksonville. The Florida man seen in a violent arrest video was in Chicago on Tuesday. William McNeil Jr. joined African-American civil rights attorney Ben Crump and Harry Daniels at the National Bar Association annual convention. 100 years ago, the association was created because African-American attorneys couldn't join other organizations. At the time, the issue was to prevent racial profiling, which led to lynching. Sounds like one thing hasn't changed, that's for sure. The attorney spoke about the body camera video released by the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. The video shows McNeil arguing with officers before one breaks a window and punches him and pulls him out of the car. The attorneys address a new angle of the video showing an officer pointing a gun at McNeil. McNeil also recorded video during the traffic stop, which is what we're talking about. Jacksonville police determined that officers did not do anything criminal during the encounter after an internal investigation. Of course! Police say McNeil was pulled over for not having his lights on in the rain, which, did you see any rain in those windows? I didn't. The video then shows McNeil locking himself inside the car as the officer repeatedly orders him to exit the car. McNeil is heard on the video asking for a supervisor. He says he broke a tooth and got a concussion. McNeil also described the emotion and psychological impact, traumatized, still afraid of police, still frightened at night. In the police report, an officer claimed McNeil was reaching for a knife. McNeil's lawyers denied that. The videos did not appear to show that action. Now, did you see a knife in that video? Did you see him grabbing anything in that video? Now, isn't this just sort of part and parcel as to how these police brutality stops tend to go? If you can't find something about the black person that you want to brutalize, then make up something so you can get away with it. Several attorneys prayed with McNeil Tuesday, vowing to clear his name. No way he should have been charged with a crime because, let me be very clear, the stop was unconstitutional. Yes, it was unconstitutional because having your headlights off in the middle of the day is not a law violation, nor is it something that a cop should be stopping anybody for. 100 years later, we were reminded that we have more fight to do, Crump said. He never escalated anything. He is never fighting. He was a college student. John Burris, the former attorney for Rodney King, was also at the conference. You saw Rodney King. You saw this. What you're really seeing is a continuation of 35 years of brutality that's occurred, Burris said. Attorneys plan to file a federal civil rights lawsuit on McNeil's behalf and want the officer involved fired and prosecuted. But the state's attorney for Jacksonville has said none of the officers would face criminal charges. Of course he hasn't, as I said before. And you know why? Because the state's attorney for Jacksonville is headed by none other than Ron DeSantis, Florida's latest racist piece of bigot, white maggot governor. Giving further information and detail on that little pearl of wisdom, Waters said that the state's attorney's office has determined that none of the involved officers violated criminal law, but highlighted that the deputies' actions are now being examined in an administrative review, which will determine if the deputies violated JSO policy. He also identified the deputy who broke the car window and punched McNeil as Officer D. Bowers, as in Donald Bowers. These administrative reviews are ongoing, but the state attorney's office has determined that none of the involved officers violated criminal law, even though the administrative review is yet to be completed, Waters said. Pending the outcome of this administrative review, Officer Bowers has been stripped of his law enforcement authority, which actually he should stay stripped as well. But what do you think the possibility is that that's not going to happen? Waters said it is unclear if other deputies involved in the arrest have been placed on administrative leave. They all should be. ABC News has reached out to JSO and the Florida State Attorney's Office for further comment. It's just ridiculous that we are having and hawing over this in 2025 after all the crap that's gone on with all of these police brutality sightings, reportings, and videos, including the death of George Floyd. We're still sitting here talking about, oh, these guys they're not criminals. They beat a man because they stopped him for having his headlights not being on in the middle of a perfectly nice, cloudy day, and he's simply questioning them and asking a supervisor what he did wrong and what he was violating. And this D. Bowers piece of crap pulls him out of the car and punches him in the face. And we're sitting here talking about, well, I don't know, administratively, they didn't do anything criminal. There's nothing wrong with any of these people. Yeah, here's Florida for you. Here's the southern U.S. for you. Here are all the punks and the bigots who are out in full force. And the shameful thing is some of these officers are even black. Here's a report of the gun that was seen earlier in the video. Civil rights attorneys stood beside 22-year-old William McNeil Jr., the man seen in a now viral Jacksonville traffic stop arrest. This is First Coast News. For a news conference in Chicago Tuesday morning, renewing calls for justice in the incident, which they say began with racial profiling. At the news conference held in the 100th annual celebration of the National Bar Association, civil rights attorneys Ben Crump and Harry Daniels held a poster of what they said was a new image from body cam footage they say shows an officer holding McNeil at gunpoint during the incident. There's your gun right there. That day I was telling the truth, McNeil said softly. From the evidence in the picture, I was being held at gunpoint and I didn't feel safe. McNeil, who was pulled over February 19th in Jacksonville for an alleged headlight and seatbelt violation, pleaded guilty the day after his arrest to driving on a suspended license and resisting an officer without violence. The traffic charges for which McNeil was initially pulled over were dropped. How convenient is that? Now viral cell phone footage of his arrest shows Jacksonville Sheriff's Officer Donald Bowers shatter McNeil's vehicle window and punch him in the face before he is pulled from his car and forced to the ground by multiple officers. Bowers' initial punch was not documented in the police report of the incident. Oh, how convenient for that as well. Jacksonville Sheriff T.K. Waters, who, by the way, is black. Another, as mentioned before, what a traitor to his own cause, released body cam footage of the incident shortly after McNeil's cell phone video went viral. Now McNeil's attorneys claim the sheriff's office purposely didn't release the body cam of the officer who appears to be holding McNeil at gunpoint during the traffic stop. We know there are other videos that exist, Crump said, that we do not have. A Jacksonville Sheriff's Office spokesman said in a statement the image shown in Crump's press conference was a short snippet from the body-worn camera video released by JSO on July 21st. JSO made the video available during a news conference on our social media accounts and our public transparency portal, the spokesman said in a statement. The video that the attorneys released today has been publicly accessible since July 21, as evidenced by the JSO badge and captions. McNeil's attorney said they plan to file a federal rights lawsuit over McNeil's arrest and also challenge his conviction. The sheriff has defended the officer, saying the videos lack full context. So further information on this ridiculous defense from the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. After McNeil's video of the February 19th traffic stop drew millions of views on the internet earlier this month, Jacksonville Sheriff T.K. Waters pushed back on some of the claims made by the lawyers. The sheriff, who is black, said McNeil had been repeatedly told to exit the vehicle. And though he earlier had his car door open while talking with an officer, he later closed it and appeared to keep it locked for about 3 minutes before officers forcibly removed him, the video shows. Well, of course he did, because the officers were threatening they're going to probably beat the crap out of him, which they actually eventually did. Waters said the cell phone camera footage from inside the car does not comprehensively capture the circumstances surrounding the incident. Cameras can only capture what can be seen and heard. Yeah, no shit, that's what they're for, Sheriff. The sheriff said in a news conference in Florida last week, so much context and depth are absent from recorded footage because a camera simply cannot capture what is known to the people depicted in it. Really? I see a pretty clear picture there, asshole. McNeil had been pulled over and accused of not having his headlights on in inclement weather, even though it was daytime, his lawyer said. Crump says he believes the sheriff's office uses headlights as a pretext for stopping vehicles by black people. He said his team has learned that Jacksonville officers cited 78 motorists for driving without headlights during the past 3 years, and 63 of them are black. Do you think that percentage of black people is the percentage of the black population in Florida? Oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. A point of contention in the police report is a claim that McNeil reached toward an area of the car where deputies later found a knife during a search of the vehicle after his arrest. The suspect was reaching for the floorboard of the vehicle where a large knife was sitting. Officer D. Bowers wrote in his report, "Lying piece of crap." Crump said the video shows that McNeil never reaches for anything. It definitely doesn't. I don't see anything, do you? A second officer observed in his report that McNeil kept his hands up as Bowers smashed the window. What? We all saw that. Slate magazine writes, McNeil's story is not an aberration. It is the latest entry in a long American ledger of a history written in bruises, breathlessness, and blood. From the Edmund Pettus Bridge to a Cleveland Park, to a Staten Island sidewalk, to the Minneapolis street outside a convenience store, to another traffic stop, this time in Florida. The names and dates may change, the cities, the justifications, the badge numbers may shift, but the dynamic remains: black assertion of basic rights treated by law enforcement as aggression, a threat demanding potentially deadly force, black presence treated as a provocation, black life demeaned, abused, and often extinguished, forced to justify its right to exist in the face of state violence. Compliance becomes a moving target, one black Americans can never quite seem to hit. Legally, the stop should never have happened. Under Wren v. United States, the police may use a traffic violation as a pretext for a stop, but only if a violation occurred. McNeil committed none. There was no lawful basis for the seizure, making it a violation of the Fourth Amendment from the outset, and the violations stacked. When McNeil, seated and calm, asked why he was being stopped, and later asked for a supervisor, officers ordered him to exit the vehicle. That command under Pennsylvania v. Mims presumes that officers have lawfully stopped a motorist and are seeking to minimize danger. But here, the stop lacked any legal justification. And far from reducing the risk of danger, the officers created the danger to MCNEIL. At bottom, it was an encounter of compound unconstitutionality, a seizure without cause, a retaliatory command, and then brute force deployed as a consequence for asserting a right. This, too, is not new. Treatment of black movement, speech, and autonomy as inherently dangerous is older than the badge. Slave patrols once roamed this country with the legal power to stop, question, and beat those who could not prove their right to travel. Under the fugitive slave laws, the burden of proof belonged not to the captor, but to the captured. That same dynamic echoes through every doctrine that permits a stop without reason, a strike without threat, and a charge of resisting applied to survival itself. It is not merely unconstitutional, it is ancestral. And is in a different country, MCNEIL's humanity would have been enough to halt the violence. His fear would have been enough to stop the blows. His calm, his questions, his visible hands, any one of them should have been enough to spare him the shattering of glass and the crush of fists. But in this country, black suffering is made to meet a higher evidentiary burden, one that exists nowhere in law but is enforced all the same. Yeah, about the slave patrols, another little piece of history you're not going to get in your typical high school history class courses. Story here by Robin Nicole Sanders. So, as you can see, police bigotry and brutality continues to be an American tradition from police officers across the country against black people. Even in 2025, even after all the crap that happened with George Floyd, after all the things that happened before George Floyd, and all the things that have been documented up to this point, all the way back to Rodney King. And we know how Rodney King turned out. So, certainly do wish Ben Crump luck in filing the federal charges against these stupid buffoon police officers, these pathetic, useless bigots, these crackheads that come out of Ron DeSantis' office. This is like Donald Trump and his goons being extended to the police force. I can see Donald Bowers cracking that window thinking he's doing the great Trump ice-capade there, raiding the car and thinking he's taking on a black man who is an obvious danger to the safety and welfare of the American citizenship. Pricks like this should not be carrying a badge. And I wonder and hope that they are successful in getting this asshole defrocked and the rest of these cops shown the door. Somehow I'm not hopeful, but there's always the possibility. My name is Scott Schneider, and I am fed up in Minnesota.